A massive and powerful army marches proudly toward the grand stairs of the palace. High up on his throne, the Dark Leader smiles widely while watching his giant force gather. His loyal followers shout praises, claiming that the entire world will soon kneel before their master. The great heavenly demon Ouija Chion proudly agrees before his advisor asks a curious question. The advisor points down and questions how they got such shiny and expensive armor for the troops. Knowing their cult has been broke for ages, the subordinate wonders who would give them so much cash. The leader calmly replies that some guy just lent it to him, which leaves his helper completely shocked. Knowing their bad reputation, the subordinate realizes that no sane person would ever lend them a single coin. Suddenly showing respect, the helper assumes his boss terrified the local banks into offering the war funds voluntarily. The cult leader scoffs at this theory because he claims he would never resort to acting like a cheap thief. Reaching into his robe, the supreme ruler pulls out the document he signed with a simple thumbprint. He says a polite bank manager trusted him and gave him a super low interest rate on this one piece of paper. Reading the special conditions of the deal, the aide discovers that they will lose their internal power if they fail to pay. Fear takes over his mind when he notices that the actual due date for the massive loan is literally today. The loyal advisor laughs off the crazy terms and claims that this contract is nothing but a silly formality. The leader proudly agrees and plans to easily pay back the bank manager with gold after they win the war. He bursts into a loud laughter and slowly draws his powerful sword to prepare for the big invasion. Raising his weapon to the sky, he declares himself the true master who will plunder and burn everything. With a simple wave of his shiny blade, the leader commands the massive group to finally begin their attack. The loyal followers shout their agreement and instantly dash forward to lead the charge into battle. The giant army of soldiers screams in excitement while marching forward to conquer the entire region. While the massive army marches forward to start the invasion, dust clouds rise up from their feet. Watching them go, the Dark Leader scoffed before sitting down on a comfortable chair to relax. He slowly pours a cup of hot tea and takes a nice sip to enjoy the beautiful view from his balcony. His peaceful moment gets instantly ruined when a loud voice greets him as a valued customer. Spitting out his drink in shock, the chief jumps up and spots two mysterious figures standing nearby. The unexpected guests are a handsome, smiling young man and a beautiful girl holding a scroll. Sweat drips down his face as he recognizes the friendly lender who gave him that massive fortune. The great master gets shocked because he did not sense these two strangers sneaking up behind him at all. Smiling politely, the visitor introduces himself as Manager Kim and reminds the leader of their previous meeting. Despite the polite greeting, the demon master feels a cold sweat because his instincts warn him that this banker is deadly. The leader cautiously asks what he really is, but the man just laughs and repeats his normal job title. He then pulls out a ledger and happily reminds his valued customer that today is the deadline to pay back the loan. The quiet secretary adjusts her glasses and immediately starts sliding the beads on her abacus to calculate the debt. The secretary quickly finishes her calculations on the abacus and whispers the massive final numbers to Manager Kim. The manager happily announces that the principal and interest bring his total debt to 13,000 gold coins. Hearing this crazy amount, the cult leader screams in anger because the interest is actually higher than the loan itself. Smiling smoothly, the businessman explains that private loans are never cheap and suggests going to a normal bank instead. He then lists all the reasons why, including his terrible credit score and his job as the head of a violent syndicate. While the furious leader claims they are a holy group, the manager gently points out that the world just sees them as villains. Since their gang is a high-risk group that could get destroyed at any moment, nobody else would ever dare to lend them money. The leader sweats because he knows any standard bank that tried to help his evil cult would be targeted and forced to close. To keep the negotiation moving, the silent helper slides the signed contract across the table to show him the terms. The secretary shows him the exact clause in the contract, explaining why the interest rates are so high. Gritting his teeth in frustration, the supreme leader takes a deep breath to calm his rising anger. He openly admits that he does not have that crazy amount of cash on hand right now. Pointing out toward the horizon, the demon master shows them the rich lands of the Central Plains. The clever businessman smiles and jokes about the giant dust cloud rising from the marching soldiers. The leader promises to easily pay back 3 times the loan amount in just 1 month after conquering the area. Smiling widely, the clever banker rejects the deal because his company only cares about his current ability to pay. He adds that a war of conquest has a tiny 5% chance of success, which makes the risk far too high. Manager Kim steps forward and firmly rejects the deal because their agreed time has already run out. Smiling coldly, he reminds the leader that the contracts he must now pay with his own body. The supreme ruler looks completely stunned before bursting into a sudden fit of laughter. He proudly questions how a mere banker dares to demand the physical body of the mighty heavenly demon. This sudden outburst catches the quiet secretary off guard as a powerful gust of wind begins to blow. Dark clouds instantly fill the sky while a massive pressure starts to shake the entire palace balcony. The beautiful helper looks up in surprise when she feels the terrifying energy rising from the old boss. Cracks spread across the stone floor as the furious leader unleashes his full power to threaten the guests. The heavenly demon releases a massive wave of pressure and declares that a mere loan shark has brought death upon himself. A dark purple aura completely wraps around his body as he prepares to destroy his unexpected visitors with a single strike. Seeing this terrifying display of ancient power causes the young businessman to scream out in what looks like pure horror. The dark leader mocks his fear and coldly states that it is now far too late for them to beg for their lives. Unexpectedly, the banker actually cries because he thinks the boss is recklessly wasting the valuable energy of the company. This ridiculous reaction leaves the mighty warrior completely speechless, while the lender runs around complaining about damage. Veins pop on his hand as the furious demon calls him a crazy bastard and instantly swings his giant sword to strike him down. The target barely dodges the deadly attack while a massive shockwave tears through the stone tiles of the palace balcony. The demon leader roars in anger and swings his sword to unleash a legendary slash of dark energy. The businessman easily deflects the attack with a calm smile and brushes off the dust without breaking a sweat. The deflected wave of energy shoots high into the sky and slices a giant mountain peak completely in half. This incredible display of power leaves the young secretary standing there with her mouth wide open in disbelief. The demon master laughs in amusement and admits his visitor actually has some real power to back up his proud attitude. He warns the man that such cheap tricks will not save him before tightly gripping his weapon to prepare another strike. A massive pillar of dark energy surrounds the supreme ruler as he promises to show his opponent the meaning of true despair. Manager Kim casually calls his opponent a talkative customer while the boss sweats in sheer disbelief. Before the mighty ruler can even react, the mysterious businessman suddenly places a hand directly on his stomach. The supreme leader gets terrified after realizing he completely failed to sense the deadly movements of his opponent. Smiling gently, the friendly banker warns the customer that his collection process might sting a little bit. Golden light explodes as a strange force begins to tear through his inner body like a massive storm. Pain shoots through the mighty warrior when he realizes his legendary internal energy is being rapidly sucked away. The polite collector happily tells him to relax his body, while the old man cries about losing all his hard work. The smiling businessman feels generous and decides to extract all the toxic energy from the customer body. A painful scream instantly echoes through the entire area as the boss suffers from the intense collection process. Crashing heavily onto the stone tiles, the mighty leader sits down looking completely hollow and lifeless. Manager Kim bows politely and introduces his secretary Mak Rihwa while declaring the debt fully collected. He hands over a small card and kindly asks the stunned warrior to use their banking services again next time. Staring blankly at the paper, the exhausted old man drops to the ground and passes out from sheer exhaustion. The official business card from the Continental Bank simply flutters next to his unconscious body. In the peaceful Sichuan province inside a busy local restaurant, some guests enjoy delicious food while talking. One warrior whispers some massive news claiming that the terrifying demonic cult has suddenly stopped its advance. Hearing this, some wonder if the great leader got scared, while another quickly scoffs at that ridiculous idea. He reminds everyone that the legendary demon once slaughtered over 100 powerful masters all by himself. People speculate that the halt must be a clever trap, while others guess he is about to reach enlightenment. It makes no sense because no government troops or alliance forces block their path during this sudden stop. The nervous customers then wonder if the mighty ruler suffered a deadly medical issue right before the battle. The people assume some massive conspiracy is happening behind the scenes before one man wonders if they just ran out of cash. A heavy silence fills the restaurant until the other warriors burst into loud laughter at such a ridiculous theory. Listening to the conversation from his table manager, Kim smiles because he knows the guy actually guessed the absolute truth. His beautiful assistant Mak Rihwa agrees and whispers that money rules over everyone, including the mighty demon lord. The waiter soon arrives to take their order, and the hungry girl immediately prepares to request a giant feast. Her strict boss quickly stops her and points out that they received zero cash from their recent job. The manager declares that they are totally broke, so he orders 2 bowls of the cheapest plain noodles. While eating, the girl calls her boss a cheapskate and asks about their next target. The businessman politely corrects her by saying they should always show respect to their paying customers. With a mysterious smile, the collector reveals that their next client belongs to the famous Mount Hua sect. Soon they travel all the way to a busy town located right at the foot of the dark mountains. After walking for some time, they finally arrive outside a quiet building, which the man calls their new workplace. Two armed guards block their path and smugly ask what business a young couple has in such a remote place. Manhwa is surprised to see guards stationed outside such a run-down old pavilion. Kim politely asks to enter, but the guards block them and demand a special entry token. Since the group has no token, the angry guard draws his sword and threatens to make things bloody. Kim sighs and notes that the guard looks like someone who has taken lives before. The friendly businessman decides that these aggressive guards need to be taught a lesson. One guard jumps high into the air and swings his sharp sword down to strike the challenger. The smiling manager casually extends his hand and easily deflects the deadly attack without effort. The first guard gets blasted backward by the sudden counterattack and crashes hard onto the ground while screaming. This defeat shocks the second guard, who quickly loses his mind and charges forward with a furious expression. He unleashes his special poison snake sword technique, but the manager easily catches the sharp blade with 2 fingers. With a gentle squeeze of his fingers, the businessman shatters the sword, which leaves the fighter completely stunned. Moving faster than the eye can see, the manager passes by and strikes several vital pressure points on the enemy body. The second guard groans in pain before collapsing face first onto the cold stone floor next to his broken weapon. Watching the easy victory, the pretty assistant realizes she still cannot understand his strange combat style. She notes that his unique techniques definitely do not belong to any of the normal righteous martial arts clans. While walking behind him, the girl wonders about his identity, since he easily defeated the legendary demon lord before. She thinks about asking him directly, but quickly realizes that he would probably just ignore her question. Behind them, the defeated guard groans in absolute agony while a strange energy seals his physical strength. Looking at the motionless bodies, the assistant asks if they are dead, but the manager explains he only blocked their power. Instead of helping, her boss orders her to drag the heavy guards into a dark corner so nobody notices them. Ignoring her loud complaints, the businessman calmly enters the old building and looks around with a mysterious smile. The manager finds a secret staircase inside the old building and begins walking down into the dark underground. Reaching the bottom, he hears a loud noise and discovers a massive underground gambling hall filled with players. The crazy gamblers scream and slam the tables while risking their own limbs on risky bets. The pretty assistant finally catches up and complains that he left her to drag the heavy guards all by herself. Looking around in shock, the girl wonders if this dirty gambling den is really their new office for the day. The boss smiles and tells his annoyed assistant that the stuffy smell in the air is actually the scent of money. A sudden loud shout from the crowd catches their attention as things start to get wild. Loud murmurs fill the hall because a young man won 3 games in a row, and the manager instantly spots their client. Holding his tiles with extreme confidence, the handsome youth sits elegantly, while a massive crowd watches his play. The assistant gasps in shock after spotting a plum blossom crest on his robes and realizes he is from the Manhwa sect. The smiling manager quickly corrects her and reminds his helper that they must always call him a valued customer. This legendary swordsman named Chongsong is actually the youngest direct disciple of the powerful leader of his clan. Showing a sketch of their target, the clever boss jokes that this famous warrior has the gambling skills of a total loser. The girl complains about his word games before questioning if the report about his terrible playstyle is actually true. The young man confidently raises the bet by 10 coins and demands his opponent show his final hand. The crowd goes wild when he wins another round and happily scoops up a massive pile of silver coins. Watching from a nearby table, the assistant thinks his clumsy moves make him look like a total beginner who is just lucky. The smart manager smiles and asks his partner if she knows the most dangerous thing that can happen at a gambling table. Meanwhile, the loud swordsman proudly brags to his friends that the tiles are practically sticking to his hands today. Kim notes that the real danger starts when someone wins by a fluke, while the dealer suddenly shows a creepy smile. This sudden change in the room quickly makes the pretty helper feel highly uneasy. The warning from the manager comes true as the young warrior loses his very first round by just 1 single point. The swordsman laughs off the loss as a minor setback while his opponent flashes a very creepy smile in the dark. Soon the young man begins losing much larger bets by the narrowest margins, which starts to mess with his head. Every single time he thinks he holds a winning hand, the other player reveals a set that is just slightly better. The winner proudly brags about his great luck while the furious warrior squeezes his wooden tiles until they crack. This constant cycle of losing by a single point completely destroys the young warrior's ability to think straight. Seeing his terrible state, his worried companions step forward and try to convince the young man to leave the den. Gritting his teeth, the young swordsman reaches inside his robes and pulls out his remaining cash for a final bet. The crowd gasps as he risks everything on a single round because his gut tells him he will win. After losing every single coin, the poor guy sits in despair while his fake friends quickly run away. Standing in the corner, the elegant banker and his beautiful helper watch the target sit all alone. Smiling confidently, the manager gets up and tells his partner that they should officially start their job. Under the bright full moon, the broke swordsman sits outside the tavern and pulls his hair in pure regret. Crying over his massive loss, he realizes his powerful master will beat him up if he returns empty-handed. While crying over his bad luck, the young warrior is suddenly interrupted by a friendly voice asking if he needs quick money. The smiling stranger introduces his company and explains that they offer instant loans without requiring any collateral. Looking completely confused, the broke swordsman grabs his head and asks what this continental bank is supposed to be. After thinking about the strange terms, the youth suddenly realizes the truth and asks if they are just loan sharks. The banker calmly smiles and replies that he is simply there to help anyone who needs immediate funds for their problems. Feeling insulted, the young warrior draws his blade and warns them that it is dangerous to mock a proud Manhwa disciple. Laughing off the threat, the businessman reaches inside his robe and pulls out a massive ring of shiny silver coins. The youth stares in absolute shock while the polite banker explains that high status means nothing when someone is broke. The clever banker tempts the warrior to win back his losses, which leaves the young disciple completely shocked by his boldness. Desperate for cash to fix his massive mistake, the broke swordsman struggles to resist the tempting offer of quick money. With a bright smile, the businessman holds up a simple contract and promises to deliver the silver coins immediately. He assures the client that the interest rates are reasonable before handing him a brush to sign the paperwork. Without even reading the terms, the desperate youth quickly signs the paper to get his hands on the funds. A wild and greedy smile covers his face as he demands the manager hand over the cash right now. The polite banker happily confirms that the deal is approved while preparing to finish the transaction. Taking the money, the excited warrior dashes away in a flash, which leaves the pretty assistant totally speechless. Looking at the signed contract, the assistant wonders why a simple gambler from a good clan became their next target. The polite businessman explains that he does not care if someone belongs to a good or evil faction of martial artists. He only cares about getting what he needs, and this cold logic leaves his pretty companion completely speechless. Their quiet walk is suddenly interrupted when loud footsteps echo from the shadows nearby. The two beat-up guards from earlier return with support, while painfully remembering how easily they got crushed. A massive scarred boss steps forward with his entire gang to find the strangers who dared to mess with his men. The elegant businessman sighs and tells his assistant that she should have hidden the defeated guards much better. The angry head of the Viper gang demands their names, so the polite manager proudly introduces his bank. Having never heard of this weird company, the tough leader mocks his style and warns him about acting cool in his territory. With a calm smile, the banker asks why he should even care, which instantly makes his giant opponent shake with rage. The furious chief commands his loyal subordinates to break their legs, while the armed thugs instantly rush forward. When one attacker leaps into the air to strike, the manager calmly uses a simple tap to redirect his heavy momentum. Screaming in shock, the thug crashes onto the dirt, while another furious warrior quickly steps up to try his luck. Another angry thug lunges forward, but the elegant manager easily dodges his clumsy strike. With a quick counterattack, the businessman sends his opponent crashing hard against the distant dirt floor. Watching his loyal men groaning on the ground makes the giant gang leader sweat with intense shock. The boss cannot believe his entire gang got completely wiped out in the blink of an eye. The scarred warrior gulps in fear and begins to wonder if this polite businessman is actually a terrifying monster. Trying to hide his rising panic, the massive leader praises the young man and demands a quick apology. Despite his tough words, the boss freezes in terror when the banker casually sighs and prepares his next move. With a single powerful strike, the manager blasts the giant gang leader and sends him crashing hard onto the dirt floor. The remaining thugs quickly run away in pure terror after realizing they are dealing with an absolute monster. The banker warns the groaning boss that things will get very bad if he ever opens another gambling den in this area. Turning to his beautiful assistant, the smiling boss calmly orders her to clean up the entire mess by herself. While his helper drags the heavy bodies away, the young manager looks up at the moon and wonders about their client. Back inside the underground hall, a large crowd gathers around the young swordsman who is sweating heavily over his game. The desperate youth slams his hands on the table in pure rage after losing 5 consecutive rounds by just one single point. The furious disciple accuses his opponent of cheating, but the smuggler simply blames his terrible luck. The surrounding crowd laughs and mocks his famous clan while the young warrior slumps over in complete defeat. Under the bright moon, the desperate young man kicks the doors open and runs out of the gambling house. He runs straight into the polite banker and feels a massive wave of relief to see that the businessman is still nearby. Screaming like a madman, the young gambler begs for another loan and promises to win back every single coin this time. The manager happily agrees to help but points out that they will need some physical collateral for this second transaction. Having completely lost his mind, the desperate youth pulls out a precious jade plaque given to him by his own martial arts master. The smiling collector happily accepts the valuable item and hands over another massive bag of coins to his excited client. Over the next 2 hours, a ridiculous cycle keeps repeating itself like a broken record. The desperate warrior constantly runs back to the banker while begging for another loan to cover his losses. With a calm smile, the friendly businessman tells his desperate client to relax because he believes in him. After taking a third and fourth loan, the broke disciple continues to sweat heavily while cursing his bad luck. The young man soon requests a fifth loan and eagerly grabs another massive bag of silver coins from the banker. He slams his hands on the table in pure frustration after losing yet another round by a single point. A loud scream of absolute despair echoes from the building when the young swordsman loses every single coin. Outside the building, the satisfied manager smiles and decides that they have done enough hard work for the day. The manager decides to head home, but his assistant gets confused since they did not actually collect any money yet. Yawning casually, the businessman explains that debts are actually much better when they are left to age like a fine sauce. The girl worries the client might refuse to pay, but her boss calmly says that would make things even better for them. Flashing a very creepy smile, the manager explains he would gladly slice the debtor open to settle the account. Meanwhile, the story shifts to the majestic Mount Hwa sect, where the peaceful morning sun shines over the temples. Inside one of the quiet rooms, the young disciple sits on his bed while clutching his head in absolute distress. Sweat pours down his face as the desperate warrior panics and wonders how he could have made such a terrible mistake. The youth remembers taking multiple loans in the name of his clan, and even giving away his master precious jade plaque. The terrified young disciple trembles on the floor because he knows his master will destroy him if the truth gets out. His panic reaches a whole new level when a sudden knock at the door reveals that the leader is looking for him. Cold sweat pours down his face as he realizes there is absolutely no escape from meeting his terrifying boss. Entering the grand hall, the nervous warrior kneels before the highly respected sect leader Taoist Hyunjong. The old master stands proudly and notes that his usually reliable student skipped the daily morning training session. The sweaty youth quickly blames an illness to hide the fact that he was awake all night stressing over his debts. Sighing at his weakness, the grandmaster reaches into his robe and tosses a mysterious dark box onto the floor. Staring at the fancy object, the young warrior instantly catches a faint medicinal scent. While standing proudly, the master explains that this is the legendary plum blossom pill meant to restore his strength. Opening the container reveals a glowing purple treasure that every fighter dreams of owning. Sweat pours down his face as he wonders if his boss has no idea about his secret gambling addiction. With a warm smile, the elder tells his favorite student that the entire future of the clan rests on his shoulders. Deeply touched by this kindness, the student starts to tear up because of the warm gesture. Suddenly, a dark thought crosses his mind as he realizes selling the pill will allow him to buy back his jade plaque. Sitting alone on the cold floor, the young disciple feels like absolute trash for even thinking about selling the gift. Suddenly, a lively noise nearby catches his attention, and he looks up to see some local villagers visiting the temple. The kind members of his sect warmly greet the poor commoners who offer simple food with absolute trust and respect. Watching this beautiful display of purity from afar only makes the desperate warrior feel an overwhelming wave of guilt. Gritting his teeth, he hates himself for dragging the legendary name of his beloved faction through the mud. Despite the heavy shame crushing his heart, he slowly picks up the dark box and accepts his terrible situation. Biting his lip, the young disciple hides the sacred pill inside his robe before heading out to commit a terrible sin. Standing up with a firm look, the young man decides to sell the precious pill to a local pawn shop. He tells himself that resolving this immediate crisis is the only true way to save his clan from ultimate shame. Walking away from his room, the desperate disciple swears to himself that he will never step inside a gambling house again. Under the bright full moon, a stealthy figure leaps across the high roofs of the temple grounds to escape in secret. Landing heavily on the cold ground, the young warrior looks around nervously to make sure nobody saw his escape. Whispering a quiet apology to his respected master, the guilty youth continues his secret journey into the dark night. As he walks deeper into the quiet forest, the heavy silence only makes his heart beat faster with pure anxiety. The young disciple freezes in absolute shock when a sudden voice calls out his name from the shadows. The young warrior freezes when he recognizes his strict senior brother on night watch duty. Panicking inside, the boy tries to act polite because this elder is known for being extremely rigid. He lies about needing fresh air, but his companion immediately questions why he was climbing over the wall. Observing his nervous movements, the guardian notices that the youth is desperately clutching his chest. The stern watcher demands to see what he is hiding, despite the desperate youth claiming it is nothing. Snatching the box away, the elder brother opens it and gasps when he recognizes the sacred medicine. Looking at the glowing plum blossom pill, the watchman questions how he obtained such a precious treasure. Realizing the sect leader gave him the pill, the elder brother praises the young disciple for his incredible talent. When asked why he is out so late, the sweating youth lies that he wanted to consume the medicine in complete privacy. Deeply moved by this explanation, the emotional senior brother bursts into tears and begs for forgiveness. To show his support, the guardian decides to protect his junior and demands that he take the pill right now. Sitting down on the grass, the cheerful senior brother happily waits for the young warrior to begin his meditation. Panicking inside, the desperate youth bows and tries to explain that he always trains better when he is alone. The strict elder brother completely rejects the excuse and commands him to swallow the treasure without wasting time. The desperate boy tries making up every excuse possible, but his strict senior brother easily counters all of them. Realizing he has no choice, the nervous disciple opens the box and holds the glowing medicine with trembling hands. With a heavy heart, the young man puts the legendary pill into his mouth and slowly swallows it. Sitting in a cross-legged position, the youth begins to meditate as a massive wave of blue energy swirls around him. Watching the process, the senior brother is amazed by the clear energy and loudly congratulates his talented junior. Standing up, the junior disciple politely salutes his companion while crying inside about his ruined plan. After finishing his training session, the young disciple politely thanks his senior brother for the help. Sitting alone under the moon, the boy feels completely defeated because his plans are ruined. Since he consumed the precious pill, he has no way to get money and fears his terrible secrets will be revealed. While stressing over his huge debts, the young warrior suddenly stops and realizes a dark way out of his trouble. He slowly draws his sharp sword while thinking that a debt only exists if the person collecting it is still alive. A creepy smile appears on his face because he believes he can easily eliminate those two mysterious visitors. Feeling the incredible energy of the pill inside his body, he decides to prepare a deadly trap for the banker. Standing in the dark forest, the young disciple wonders why he should pay back the loan when he can just end their lives.